my husband, in order to vent his anger for his first love, personally pulled out my fingernails one by one. I was in so much pain that my whole body convulsed. Yet he smiled and asked me, "Does it hurt the injury Inying suffered while getting her nails done? You must repay tenfold." Because I was hopelessly lovesick, I tearfully begged for his forgiveness, and even handed him the pliers myself. Only when I died on that cold operating table, my resentment so heavy that an evil deity sought me out. Want revenge? Give me your love brain, and I'll give you a body with pain transfer. Opening my eyes again, I was back at the moment he pulled out my fingernails. This time I didn't cry. Instead, I cheerfully reached out my hand. "Honey, use more force. I'm afraid you won't feel it." 1. The sneer on face froze for a moment. Perhaps it's because my former timid and submissive demeanor left too deep an impression on him. He thinks I'm just putting on a brave front. Linwan sat on the sofa nearby, holding a nail file, wearing an expression of someone eagerly watching a good show. "Sister, don't be too hard on Brotherky. I've been growing these nails for a long time, and you breaking one really hurts. You know." Her voice was sweet and soft, but her eyes were full of malice. I didn't say anything, just extended my hand forward. Sanchi let out a cold snort. "Since you're so cheap, don't blame me for being ruthless." The cold metal jaws of the pliers clamped down on the nail of my right index finger without any warning. He yanked hard. The excruciating pain of a nail being torn off that I had expected never came. I only felt a slight coolness at my fingertips. The next moment, a piercing scream echoed through the villa's living room. The pliers and Song's hand clattered to the floor. Clutching his right index finger, he doubled over like a shrimp. Cold sweat instantly beading on his forehead. Blood gushed wildly through his fingers, dripping onto the expensive carpet. Lin Wan screamed in terror and sprang up from the sofa. "Chi Gage, what's wrong with you?" Sanchi trembled with pain, staring at his open palm in disbelief. The nail on his right index finger was gone, exposing the bloody and raw nail bed. The wound was as neat as if it had been forcibly yanked out with pliers. He looked at me in terror. Slowly and deliberately, I raised my own right hand. Fair, slender, with nails tinted a healthy pink, perfectly intact. "Honey, how could you be so careless?" My tone was surprised, but inside an unprecedented sense of pleasure surged. So what the evil god said was true. Even the harm others inflict on me will be transferred back unchanged. Sanchi stared at my hand, his eyes practically bulging out of his head. "Impossible. This can't be." Ignoring the pain, he picked up the pliers and lunged for my hand. "I don't believe it. You must have done something sneaky." I didn't dodge. I even took the pliers from his hand myself. "Honey, you're not feeling satisfied because you didn't pull it out, are you?" I tilted my head, my eyes innocent yet hollow. "Then I'll help you." As soon as I finished speaking, I clamped the pliers onto the little finger of my left hand. The nerves there are the most sensitive. Songi and Linwan hadn't yet realized what I was about to do. My wrist suddenly exerted force and twisted hard. Crack! The crisp sound of a bone cracking. I felt nothing at all, and even found the sound somewhat pleasant. "Ow!" Seki rolled his eyes and let out a screech like a stuck pig. The little finger of his left hand was bent backward at a gruesome 90 degrees angle. Opale. Jagged splinter of bone had pierced through the skin and was exposed. The intense pain was clearly beyond his tolerance limit. He couldn't even utter a complete sentence. His body went limp and he fainted dead away. Lin Wan was stunned with fright. She looked at Songi covered in blood, then at me, unharmed, still holding the blood-stained forceps. I leisurely wiped the blood off the pliers onto Song's shirt. Then I turned and walked step by step toward Lin Wan. "Wan Wan, your husband has fainted. Now, there's no one to play this game with me." I handed the pliers to her, a gentle and tender smile lingering at the corners of my mouth. "It's your turn, too." The ambulance took Songi away. The doctor looked at Song's bizarre injuries. frowning so deeply it could crush a fly. Nail avulsion on the right hand. Comminuted fracture on the left. What kind of torment did he go through? Lin Wan insisted that I was the one who did it, but no one at the scene believed her. After all, I was just standing there looking soft and delicate without even a scratch on me. Who could believe that I could have injured a burly man who's 185 tall so badly? In the end, the hospital could only classify it as sudden bone fragility and unexplained shedding. Sanchi received a painkiller injection and was in a drowsy sleep. Lin Wan stood in the hospital corridor, growing angrier the more she thought about it. She thinks it's my fault that Songi is like this suing you Jinx. She stormed up to me in her killer heels, raising her hand to slap me across the face. This slap is for Brother Chi. Let this teach you a lesson. In the past, at times like this, I would run away with my head in my hands or kneel down and beg for mercy. But now, I stood still without moving an inch. I even leaned my face in a little closer to make it easier for her to swing. Hit it right. Don't miss Lin Wan. Provoked by my attitude, applied even more force with her hand. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap echoed through the corridor, immediately followed by a miserable scream. Ah, my face. Linu clutched her left cheek, staggering back several steps before hitting the wall. I touched my own cheek, smooth, tender, springy to the touch, not even a red mark. In contrast, Linu, she let go of her hand and her left cheek was visibly swollen. 5 bright red fingerprints seemed branded onto the skin, and there was even a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Wan, you're being this harsh on yourself. I looked at her with feigned surprise. Your face is all swollen. What if the filler shifts? Lin Wan was in so much pain that tears streamed down her face. She pointed at me, but couldn't even speak clearly. You know sorcery. Just then, the urgent sound of high heels came from the end of the hallway. Song's mother stormed over, menacingly with 4 black, suited bodyguards. She saw her unconscious son and Lin Wan, whose face was swollen like a pig's head at first glance. Rebellious, simply rebellious. Song mother's well-preserved face twisted with rage. Suing you Jinx. My son marrying you is the worst luck for 8 generations. She rushed over to support Lin Wan, tears streaming down her face with distress. Wan, does it hurt? Mom will stand up for you. Turning her head, she glared at me fiercely. Hold her down. Make her kneel in the corridor and confess her guilt until AI wakes up. The 4 bodyguards immediately surrounded him. I did not resist and obediently allowed them to press down on my shoulders. Kneel Song's mother shouted sternly. I looked at Song Yu's harsh eyes and curled my lips slightly. Since my mother wants me to kneel, then of course I will kneel. Without waiting for the bodyguards to exert force, I bent my knees and slammed them heavily and unreservedly onto the hard marble floor. Bang! The sound was dull and enormous, so unsettling it made one's teeth ache just to hear it. Almost at the same moment, Song's mother let out a piercing, agonized scream. Her originally straight legs suddenly gave way. Her whole body uncontrollably fell heavily to its knees. Click! That was the sound of a patella shattering. Song mother's face turned pale with pain, her mouth wide open as she struggled to breathe. But no sound came out. Her hands gripped the ground with such force that her fingernails split. The pain was the excruciating agony of a completely shattered kneecap. The bodyguards were stunned and let go of me, rushing to help Song's mother. Don't move. Mother Song squeezed out 2 words from her throat, her delicate makeup completely ruined by cold sweat. I slowly stood up from the ground and brushed the dust off my knees. It doesn't hurt at all. I almost feel like dancing. I looked down at Song's mother kneeling before me, and Lin Wan crumpled on the ground. Mom, at your age, there's no need to bow like that. You flatter your daughter-in-law too much. 3. Song mother was also rushed into the emergency room. The Song household was in utter chaos that day. By nightfall, the battered family of 3 returned to the villa. Songyu woke up, but there was a hint of fear in the way he looked at me. He doesn't understand why it's never me who gets hurt. Song Mother sat in a wheelchair, her legs in thick plaster casts, her eyes grim and hostile. She's a tough cookie. Back in her younger days, she outmaneuvered countless mistresses to secure her position as Mrs. Song. She doesn't believe in superstitions. She thought it was all a coincidence that I was just putting on an act. Go and boil a kettle of water. Mother Song gritted her teeth and instructed the servants. Soon, a pot of freshly boiled water, still bubbling and gurgling, was brought over. Song's mother pointed at the kettle and then at the empty cup on the tea table, suing. Since you don't realize your mistake, drink this pot of tea. Let this be a lesson to you. From now on in this household, remember what you should and shouldn't do. That was freshly boiled water at 100 degrees. Just getting it on your skin would cause blisters, let alone drinking it. Seki and Lin Wan sat nearby, watching me with smug satisfaction. They were waiting for me to beg for mercy, to kneel down, to cry as humbly as I used to. After all, physiological responses can't lie. I looked at the pot of water billowing white steam and smiled. Tea, personally brewed by Mother, is this daughter-in-law's blessing. I picked up the teapot and poured a full cup. Scorching steam rushed into my face, leaving beads of moisture on my eyelashes. I picked up the cup. The cup's surface was startlingly hot, and the skin on my fingers instantly turned red. But I didn't feel it scalding. Only Warm Song's eyes were fixed intently on my mouth without hesitation. I tilted my head back and poured the cup of boiling water straight down my throat. Gulp, gulp. As smooth as drinking plain boiled water. Song's mother, seated in the wheelchair, suddenly clutched her throat. She let out a rasping, bellows like howl, her eyes bulging. Then she spat out a mouthful of blood-flecked spittle. It was the horrific result of her esophagus and oral cavity being instantly scalded by the high heat with slowing mucous membranes mixed with blood. Mom shouted in terror. Song's mother fell off her wheelchair in pain, rolling wildly on the ground. She clawed at her neck with both hands, her nails shredding her skin. Only a hoarse, rasping sound came from her mouth, the noise of vocal cords seared beyond repair. I put down the empty cup and licked my lips, still savoring the taste. It's a bit cold. I looked at Song's mother, who was rolling on the floor with concern in my eyes. Mom, is there any more? I haven't had enough. Lin Wan was so frightened that she shrank into the corner of the sofa, trembling. Sanchi looked at me, and for the first time, a chill rose from the depths of his heart. He looked at his mother, writhing in agony on the ground, then at me unharmed and wearing a smile. This woman is a devil. For the Song family was once again in utter chaos. Song's mother was rushed to the hospital, where the doctor said her esophagus was severely scalded and she might need a feeding tube for the rest of her life. Song Chi did not go to the hospital to keep her company. I had scared him out of his wits, but it also stirred up the cruelty deep in his bones. He was certain there was something strange about me. As long as you don't move, we'll be fine, right? Song's eyes were vicious as he held a rope in his hand. He had the villa's basement emptied, and the 4 walls and floor were all covered with thick sponge. Even the corners of the table are wrapped in edge protectors. He's going to lock me up and turn me into a who can't even hurt myself. Inying, don't blame me. Seki pushed me into the basement and locked the heavy iron door. Just stay put. You'll be released only when our injuries have healed. In the study, he watched the surveillance with a glass of red wine in hand, seemingly convinced that he had finally taken control of the situation. I looked around. Soft and cushiony. It's indeed hard to get hurt. I tried bumping into the wall, but the sponge bounced back and it didn't hurt at all. On the other end of the monitor, Sanchi let out a cold laugh. Don't bother. That's specially made anti-collision sponge. I smiled at the camera. Honey, you're so thoughtful, but don't think this means I can't make you suffer. I sat cross-legged on the floor and opened my mouth. Tongue. This is the softest and most vulnerable part of the human body. I clamped my upper and lower teeth together fiercely. Plop! A fishy sweet taste spread through my mouth. I bit my tongue, and blood trickled down from the corner of my mouth. In the study, Sanchi had just taken a sip of red wine. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his tongue, as if it had been sliced by a blade. He coughed up a mouthful of blood onto the computer screen. The red wine, mixed with the blood, was a shocking sight. He covered his mouth, tears streaming down from the pain, unable to speak. But this was not enough. I glanced at the high transom window. It was the only ventilation opening in the basement about 2 m above the ground, though there was sponge padding underneath. With the right posture and enough force, it could still cause internal injuries. I moved over the chair with a cushioned pad and stacked the small table on top of it. It wobbled precariously. I climbed up. Sanchi saw my movements on the monitor and was scared out of his wits, ignoring the severe pain in his tongue. He grabbed the walkie-talkie and roared, suing, "What are you doing? Get down here. Are you crazy? You'll fall to your death." I stood high up, my head almost touching the ceiling. I turned around and flashed a brilliant smile at the security camera. That smile looked especially eerie under the dim light. "Honey, I'm about to fly." No sooner had the words left my mouth. I closed my eyes like a kite with its string cut and dove head first. No. Song's desperate scream came through the walkie-talkie. Bang! I slammed heavily onto the sponge mat. Despite the cushioning, a faint click sound came from my neck. At the same time, an earth-shattering crash came from the study upstairs. Immediately following, Sanchi let out a gut-wrenching scream. The sound was unlike anything a human could make, more like that of a dying beast. I lay on a foam mat and moved my neck. It was a bit sore, but nothing serious. Sanchi upstairs. At this moment, he was slumped limply in an expensive executive chair. He felt as if all the bones in his body had suddenly fallen apart. His neck, in particular, throbbed with such intense pain that he instantly lost all feeling in his limbs. He tried to stand up only to find that his legs would no longer obey. That single leap had sent him straight into a wheelchair. 5. Sanchi was utterly terrified. He was carried downstairs by others to open the basement door. He sat in a wheelchair, a thick immobilizer brace around his neck, his face ashen and earth-cold. Seeing me crawl out from the pile of sponges, he instinctively shrank back. "For heaven's sake, I beg you." Say's voice was Horsero, and the injury on his tongue made him sound a bit slurred. "Don't move. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Please, just stop making trouble." Lin wan behind him, looking at me as if I were something filthy, her eyes full of fear and disgust. I stretched lazily, my joints cracking with a series of sharp pops every time it rang. Songi shuddered. "I'm hungry." I touched my stomach and said with a smile, "I want hot pot. The crazy spicy kind. The kind of ghost pepper that can burn a hole through your stomach." Song's face instantly turned deathly pale. He already had a stomach ulcer and usually ate as bland as a monk. If that level of spiciness were transferred onto him. "Inying, can we have something different? Something lighter?" He tried to bargain. I casually picked up the fruit knife on the table and twirled it between my fingers. "Don't want to eat. How about something more fun?" "Don't eat. Eat it now." Sanchi screamed so loudly that her voice cracked. Half an hour later, on the dining table sat a hot pot bubbling with chili oil, its surface densely covered with ghost peppers. Just the smell of it made the servants cough sharply. I picked up a piece of beef drenched in spicy chili oil and put it in my mouth. Awesome. The thrilling sting exploded in my mouth. But all I could think was how delicious it was. Sanchi, who was sitting across from him, the moment he took the first bite, he covered his stomach. Sweat poured down his forehead like rain. He felt as if a fire were burning in his stomach, followed by a sharp, gripping pain. The pain was like someone stirring a red-hot iron hook through his guts. Ah. He lay slumped over the table, his fingers digging tightly into the tablecloth, veins bulging on his hands. Lin Wan couldn't bear to watch anymore. Crying, she shouted, suing, "Stop eating. Chi is dying." I ignored her and took another big gulp of the spicy soup base. Si spate dolaut. Nothing but bile. His eyes rolled back and his whole body began to twitch. I glanced at Lin Wan, who was yapping beside me. "Wan Wan, you're too loud." I picked up the fruit knife and pretended to peel an apple. Oops. My hand slipped. The blade gently graced my index finger. A thin line of blood appeared. Ah! Lin Wan suddenly let out a scream. Jumping up while clutching her index finger, blood spurted through her fingers, staining her white dress. Her face turned pale from the pain, and she immediately dove under the table. "What's wrong?" "Wan, did your hand slip?" "Two." I looked at her, finding surprise. Songi was in so much pain that he was completely limp, sprawled on the wheelchair like a dead dog. "Inying, please stop eating. I'm begging you." I put down my chopsticks and looked at the mess all over the room, feeling quite pleased. Not fun. Got all sweaty from eating. I stood up. "I'm going to take a cold shower to calm down." Song closed his eyes in despair. He knew that tonight he would once again have to endure high fever and chills. 6. Lin Wan was not willing to give up. She whispered in Sanchi's ear for several nights. "Chi, she must be possessed or out of her mind. How could a normal person go through all that and still be fine? Send her to a mental hospital, one of those private ones. As long as we put her on sedatives and keep her asleep all day, we'll be safe." Say was tempted. He had been tormented beyond recognition. So late one night, a group of people in white coats burst into the bedroom and forced a straitjacket onto me. I didn't resist, letting them stuff me into the ambulance. This is a private psychiatric hospital located in a remote area known for its brutal methods, specializing in admitting patients who refused to behave. Say and Lin Wan were watching from the monitoring room. The doctor was holding a large syringe filled with a powerful tranquilizer. "Inject her with it. Maximum dose." The doctor grinned malevolently as he plunged the needle into my arm. The moment the needle pierced the vein, Lin Wan in the monitoring room suddenly let out a scream. She clutched her arm, feeling as if a rusty iron nail had been driven deep into it. The severe pain almost made her faint, but I only frowned slightly. The drug was injected, yet I felt no drowsiness. The doctor was stunned. Why no reaction? He decided to pull out all the stops. Prepare for electroconvulsive therapy. I was strapped to a treatment bed with electrode pads attached to both temples. The doctor flipped the switch. The moment the electric current passed through my body, I only gave a slight shudder. That tingling sensation even felt a bit like getting a massage. Yet my eyes remained clear, staring directly at the two people behind the one-way glass. Meanwhile, in the monitoring room, zzz. It was as if the sound of electric current crackled through the air. Seki and Lin Wan bodies instantly convulsed violently, foaming at the mouth, their hair standing on end. Their bodies jerked uncontrollably in the chairs. The excruciating pain of electric current coursing through the nerves is a torture unbearable to humans. Ah, Song's eyes rolled back and he lost control of his bladder. Urine trickled down his pant legs, the stench of ammonia filling the air. Lin Wan was in an even worse state, floundering on the ground like a dying fish. I looked at the dumbfounded doctor and smiled. "Doctor, the current is too weak. I'm not enjoying it enough. Turn it up a notch." The doctor looked at me as if I were a monster, his hand trembling as he turned the knob to its maximum setting. Ah, even the soundproof glass of the monitoring room couldn't block the agonizing screams from inside. Seki and Lin Wan were electrocuted until they passed out, black smoke rising from their bodies. When the director rushed in and saw that the two sponsors were almost electrocuted, he was scared out of his wits. "Stop. Turn it off now." He looked at me as if I were a jinx. "Get her out. Send her away right now. We'll refund double the money." 7. I have returned to the Song family. This time I was invited back by a grand sedan chair carried by 8 bears. The looks in Sanchi and Lin Wan's eyes had shifted from fear to despair. They did not even dare to speak loudly, afraid of disturbing me. But I don't want to let them off. In my previous life, Lin Wan's specialty was using that delicate and frail act to frame me. She'd trip on flat ground while walking, let cups slip from her hand, and faint while bathing every time something happened to her. Songi would blame me for it. That's good. I'll learn. 2. After dinner, just as Lin Wan was about to go upstairs, I was walking behind her when my foot suddenly slipped. Oh my, the ground is so slippery. I lunged forward and my knee slammed hard against the sharp edge of the marble step. Crack! That was the sound of my kneecap hitting the stone. I'm fine. I stood up and dusted off my skirt, but Lin Wan, who was walking in front of me, suddenly let out a piercing scream. Holding her knees, she tumbled down the entire flight of stairs. Her kneecap was shattered into pieces, and her entire leg was deformed. Sunji rushed over with a wheelchair and a pawn. Seeing this, broke down and roared, suing, "What will it take for you to finally let us go? We're already like this, and you're still not satisfied." I put away the fake smile on my face. That chilling coldness immediately shut up. This is nothing yet. I walked up to him step by step, leaned down, and looked him straight in the eyes. "Sanchi, the debts you owe me from our past life haven't even been paid back with interest yet." This was the first time I mentioned a past life. Sanchi froze, his eyes filled with terror. What did you say?" I ignored him, turned around, and picked up the sewing box from the table. I pulled out the thickest sewing needle under the light. The tip of the needle glinted coldly, facing Lin Wan. I smiled as I aimed the needle tip at the gap between my fingernail and finger. The fingers are connected to the heart, gentle and slow. "This is to return the meeting gift you gave me back then." Without hesitation, I pierced the needle in, fully buried. Ah! Linu's scream nearly lifted the roof off. Her hands flailed wildly in the air, the searing pain in her fingertips making her wish she could cut them off. Sanchi watched this scene, completely slumping back into his wheelchair. He finally understood. I have returned as a vengeful spirit come to claim his life. It will not end until death. 8. Lin Wan is dying. It's not from being tormented by me, but from a relapse of her heart condition. Prolonged terror and severe pain pushed her heart to its breaking point. The doctor has issued a critical condition notice. A heart transplant must be performed immediately. But where can one easily find a suitable donor? In my previous life, I was that donor. Seki looked at Lin Wan, who was lying on the bed, barely breathing. The red veins in his eyes were as dense as a spiderweb. He then glanced at me, humming a tune as I arranged flowers in the living room. Evil surges from the depths of his heart. He decides to risk everything on one throw. Since death is certain either way, he might as well gamble on a slim chance. He bribes a black market doctor to set up a makeshift operating table in the basement. He wants to forcibly take my heart at home. That night, a servant brought a glass of milk. I knew it contained an extremely large dose of anesthetic. I pretended not to notice and drank it all in one go, then immediately collapsed onto the sofa. Songi had someone carry me into the basement. He had turned back into that ruthless song. Chi. He held my hand, a twisted tenderness on his face. "Ining, don't blame me. Juan needs this heart more than you do. Consider it a final sacrifice for your love for me." I sneered inwardly. Finally, this moment has arrived. The scene repeats itself. A black market doctor wearing a mask holds a sharp scalpel in his hand. The harsh white light shines down on my chest. Just as the blade was about to touch my skin, I suddenly opened my eyes. My stark black and white eyes stared fixedly at the doctor. "Honey," I tilted my head, my voice sweet and sticky. "If you don't take anesthesia, it's going to hurt a lot." 9. The doctor's hand trembled, startled by my sudden awakening. But he was a tough one. 2. Having taken the money, he was determined to get the job done. Hold her down. Use the scalpel directly. Sanchi shouted from the side. The doctor gritted his teeth and slashed down hard with the scalpel. The sharp blade instantly cut through the skin on my chest. Blood gushes out, but I don't feel any pain at all. Instead, it's Song standing beside me. His chest felt as if split open by an invisible blade. A deep bone exposing wound appeared out of nowhere, flesh curling back as blood gushed out. Seki let out an agonizing scream, then collapsed backward, slamming heavily onto the ground. The doctor was dumbfounded, the scalpel trembling in their hand. WH, what? What is going on here? I sat up unhurriedly and tore off the restraints. I snatched the scalpel from the doctor's hand. Want to dig out my heart. I toyed with the bloodstained knife, my gaze icy cold. Then let me first see if your hearts are black. With the knife in hand, I gently carved a bloody mark on my own arm, sizzle on the arms of Sanchi and Lin Wan, who was lying on the other bed. A deep gash appeared simultaneously, the bone visible beneath. Blood stained the white sheets. Lin Wan, already suffering from heart failure, was jolted by the sharp pain and went directly into a heart attack. She clutched her chest, gasping for breath, her face turning purple and swollen. He helped. I walked to Linu's bedside and looked down at her. The tip of the knife was aimed at my own heart. Juan, didn't you want a heart? I smiled brightly like a demon from hell. If I stab this in now, your heart will explode. Bang! It'll burst into fireworks. I also pushed forward an inch, breaking the skin. Lin Wan was so frightened that she wet herself. The stench of urine mixed with the smell of blood. She shook her head desperately. Tears and sullen smeared all over her face. I don't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. Please don't kill me. I won't swap anymore. At this moment, all she wanted was to get as far away from me, this madman, as possible, even if it meant death. She didn't want to endure that heart-bursting pain ever again. I looked at her disheveled state and withdrew the knife. How useless. I haven't had my fill of fun yet. 10. The black market doctor, too terrified, voluntarily called the police. When the police rushed in, what they saw was a hellish scene. Blood was everywhere. Seki had a large hole in his chest and went into shock from excessive blood loss. Lin Wan, mentally broken down, curled up in a corner screaming, and I, wearing blood-stained pajamas, sat on a chair peeling an apple apart from a few shallow scratches. I was completely unscathed. The forensic doctor gave me a full physical examination. The conclusion: minor superficial injuries. The wounds on Sanchi were so deep that the bone was visible with clean knife edges, although only my fingerprints were on the knife at the scene. The surveillance camera was broken. Most importantly, who would believe that a weak woman could inflict such injuries on two strong men while remaining unscathed herself? After waking up, Sanchi accused me frantically. It's her. She's self-harming. To redirect the damage. She's a monster. She's a demon. The police looked at him sympathetically and wrote in the report, the victim is mentally disturbed, suspected of having suffered a major shock. The media moved swiftly. The Song family's wealthy household scandal instantly exploded across the internet. Rich husband addicted to abusing his wife, trafficking organs on the black market. The tyrannical mother-in-law forces daughter-in-law to boil water only to face her own consequences. The entire family goes crazy, suspected of inherited mental illness. The Song Group's stock price hit a limit down overnight. Shareholders jointly forced a coup, and Sanchi was ousted from the board of directors. He lay on the hospital bed, body wrapped in bandages, watching the news on TV, utterly despairing. I visited him with a fruit basket. There were only the three of us in the ward. I took out a paring knife and began peeling an apple leisurely. The rustling sound made Sanchi and Lin Wan tremble all over. 11. Songi had nothing left without a heart donor. Lin Wan's life was entering its final countdown. Lying in bed, she was reduced to skin and bones, and every breath was agony. I sat by the bed watching them. Actually, I'm not afraid of pain. I cut the peeled apple into pieces and ate one myself. In my past life, when you pulled out my nails and dug out my heart. It was 10, 0, 0, 0 times more painful than now. Song's eyes widened abruptly. You're reborn. He recalled what I had said earlier. I nodded. Yes, I crawled back from hell to claim your lives. Looking at the small knife in my hand, I suddenly smiled. The evil god said, the game is over, but I'm tired of playing. In front of them, I drove a knife deep into my own thigh. Blood flowed out. I winced from the pain, but this time, Sanchi and Lin Wan showed no reaction at all. Sanchi was stunned. He touched his thigh and felt no pain. He pinched himself again. It hurt, but it was just the normal pain of flesh and skin. The damage transfer was lifted. He thought the opportunity had come. The long-suppressed hatred burst forth. I'll kill you, he roared and lunged forward, trying to strangle me. But as soon as he moved, his whole body collapsed onto the ground like a heap of mud. Terrified, he realized that his limbs had no strength at all. The earlier nail-pulling, comminuted fractures, broken spine. Although the wound has healed, all the tendons in his hands and feet had long been severed. Now he can only squirm on the ground. I pulled the knife from my leg and bandaged it briefly. Watching Songi squirm on the ground like a maggot, I smiled with great delight. Husband, even if I don't have a golden finger, what can you possibly do to me? 12. Song Chi, suspected of illegal organ trading and intentional injury, though the crimes were attempted, faces conclusive evidence. Plus, with his mental state diagnosed as intermittent explosive disorder, he was locked up in the psychiatric ward attached to the prison. It is said that every night inside, he would let out horrific screams in his dreams. He repeatedly relived the scene from his past life when he pulled out my fingernails each time. That agonizing pain would truly descend upon him. That was his inner demon and his eternal punishment. Lin Wan struggled in extreme pain for 3 months without a heart source. She died miserably in suffocation and fear. When she died, her eyes were wide open, unable to rest in peace. Song Mother died a miserable death not long after, due to a severe infection caused by burns in her esophagus from hot food. The once vast Song family was left broken and ruined. I also inherited the only remaining legacy under Song's name, though not a huge fortune. It was more than enough for me to squander for a lifetime. Airport terminal. I watched the news on the big screen about the Song Group's bankruptcy. Feeling nothing inside, the voice of the evil god echoed in my mind. Satisfied, won another round. I took off my sunglasses and looked at the bright sunshine outside the window. No thanks. I touched my chest. It beat strong and powerful now. No longer humbly for anyone else. Only for myself. Now I only love myself. I pulled my suitcase, turned, and walked toward the boarding gate. Love brain is a terminal illness. Only by dying once or letting others die countless times can one be healed. The plane takes off and charges into the clouds. Let hell remain for them, and I head for freedom. Story 2. I was lying on the carpet resting when I suddenly heard a soft, childish voice. I've sacrificed so much just so Mom can. Look beautiful being held by such a messy woman every day. Who could possibly understand how I feel? I sat up abruptly and looked at my son who was lying next to me, sucking on his hand. Just as I thought I was so tired that I was hallucinating, the voice spoke again. What are you looking at? So annoying. If it weren't for the fact that you've been taking care of me quite attentively, I would have already found a way to get Dad to kick you out. I pinched myself hard. The pain confirmed that the voice I had just heard wasn't my imagination. Just as I was pondering what those 2 sentences meant, someone rang the doorbell. The next second, my best friend opened the door and walked in on her own. Watching her carrying bags full of baby supplies, I instinctively said, I already told you we have everything at home. Why are you wasting money again? My best friend put down the things in her hands and walked familiarly toward the bathroom. What's wrong with spending a little money on my God? Son, don't be jealous. There are desserts in the bag that I bought for you. 2. With that interruption, I temporarily put the earlier matter out of my mind. I pulled out a slice of black forest cake from the bag, just as I sat down on the sofa. I heard that voice again, saying, "Mom, come hug me quickly. I really want to smell your lovely scent." I paused my motion of unwrapping the dessert, watching my best friend walk out of the bathroom, quickly approach my son and scoop him into her arms. "Oh my little one is so well behaved today. Come here. Let your godmother give you a big hug." After my best friend rubbed her cheek against mine, my son couldn't stop laughing. At the same time, I also heard an exclamation. "Mom's skin is so smooth. If only I weren't worried about Mom being too tired. I'd want to be with her every day." Although, I don't understand why I suddenly heard these things. But the repeated calls of Mom that clearly weren't meant for me left me with many questions. With this premise in mind, when I looked again at the scene of my best friend interacting with her son, I began to notice something wasn't quite right. It seems that every time he Shore is around, my usually hard-to-soothe son often breaks into a smile. Is this a coincidence? Or is my son, who can't even control his bowel movements yet, doing it on purpose? Xing, if people didn't know better, they'd think Lely was your son. Every time you come, he's like an angel baby. If he were always this easy to handle, I wouldn't have been tormented like this. I said this jokingly because I had been staring intently at Hishking. I didn't miss the fleeting look of self-satisfaction in her eyes. "Mumu, you can say that taking care of a child is indeed very hard. But hasn't Lely also brought you a lot of sense of accomplishment and joy?" A sweet childish voice immediately chimed in. "You are the nanny my parents carefully selected. Know your place. Taking care of me is an honor for you." He sure was focused on playing with Lely, not noticing that my expression had darkened as I fell into deep thought because I was busy with work during my pregnancy. It affected the fetus in my womb. Not only was Lely born prematurely, but he was also a high-needs baby. He needs to be held constantly when he's not feeling well. The moment you put him down, he starts whimpering nonstop. If he pees or poops, it has to be dealt with immediately. If you're even a little late, he'll burst into loud wails at its worst. I could even cry myself breathless because Lely's condition was special. During my postpartum confinement, I went through 3 maternity nurses. Everyone said it was because I hadn't been careful during my pregnancy, which caused the child to suffer so much. I was also overwhelmed with guilt and finally made a decision after Lely turned 100 days old to change my life plan. I resigned and returned to my family to become a full-time mom. Now Lely is 8 months old. Even with the help of a nanny, I still felt physically and mentally exhausted. After less than half a year of taking care of the child, I felt as though I had aged 10 years. I had no energy to lose weight, no motivation to dress up. Seeing me so unkempt, he would only speak a few extra words to me when it concerned Lely. Most of the time, G.I. Shu couldn't even be bothered to speak to me. I felt both resentful and wronged, but I simply didn't have the energy to argue with him. 5 months of wholehearted care. My marriage has reached a deadlock. My health is giving me warning signs. And now I'm being told that Lely might not be my son. Then where is my child? What are the hardships and exhaustion I've endured these past few months compared to this? I gently rubbed the packaging of the small cake in my hand. My heart was filled with mixed emotions. Just 20 minutes ago, he sure was the person I felt most grateful to after giving birth. If it weren't for her visiting me every now and then, helping me take care of the child, listening to my complaints about the hardships of life, I might have collapsed long ago. But the child I worked so hard to raise actually calls her mom. This is absurd. At that thought, I suddenly laughed out loud. "What's got you so happy? Share it with me." He sure looked up, her eyes and brows smiling. Our eyes met, and because I had doubts in my heart, I took a closer look at Hishking and froze. I've always known that Hishking is quite good-looking, but I only just realized at some point she had developed an indescribable charm about her. When I thought about my pregnancy, Hishking claimed she had been away for training and studying. When I thought about Lely's 100th day, it was only then that he appeared, looking a bit heavier than I remembered. As much as I didn't want to admit it, the answer was already on the verge of coming out for a moment. I even felt a bit unsteady sitting down. What are you spacing out for? You haven't actually gone stupid from taking care of the kid, have you? He sure casually placed Lely on the carpet. My gaze followed, and I instinctively held my breath. Then I saw Lely playing on his own. It's completely different from how he usually cries for at least 10 minutes. After I put him down, I took a deep breath, and a sense of helplessness welled up from the bottom of my heart. The favoritism is so obvious. Why had I never noticed it before? Moo, what's wrong? I've been talking to you for a while. Why aren't you responding to me? There's still many doubts that haven't been clarified. So, I can't act rashly and alert the enemy. I casually made up an excuse to brush it off. I asked Tishking if she had time tomorrow. If there's anything you need help with, just tell me directly. No need to hold back. Looking at Herring's fig-ned, angry expression, I gave an apologetic smile. My heart hasn't been feeling well these past few days, so I want to go to the hospital for a checkup. If you have time, could you help keep Lely company? I don't dare leave the child alone with the nanny. Although I was already about 80% certain, I still needed to see the exact results before deciding on my next steps. Before this, I couldn't completely let go of Lely. So, when I go out, I need to find someone to look after the child. My parents have been traveling out of town these past few days because of Lely's health issues. My in-laws have always held some dissatisfaction toward me to avoid arguments. For the past few months, as long as G. Shearer wasn't around, we wouldn't even meet. And if he really is Lely's biological mother, then she is undoubtedly the best person to take care of the child. Fortunately, Hisher Ching agreed without a second thought. Had previously seen online what is needed for a paternity test. While chatting with Hishking, I was thinking about what I could get her to leave behind. Suddenly, I remembered the diamond hair clip that Hisher Ching had praised several times before. Ying looked at me puzzled as I suddenly got up and headed to the walk-in closet. Seeing me take out a mirror, she asked in confusion, "What are you doing?" I didn't say anything, just pinned the hair clip onto her hair. Then I held up the mirror for her to see. "Aren't you fond of these hair clips?" "My hair is falling out so much that I might not have the chance to wear them in the future. Giving them to you means they won't go to waste." In the mirror, Hisher unconsciously touched her own hair with a smiling face. She spoke words that contradicted her expression. "Won't my hair grow back if I take care of it? Giving such expensive hair clips to me. What a loss for you." I pretended the hairpin wasn't sitting right and used a bit of force to remove it. Eshkin gasped sharply, and I quickly apologized. "Look at me. Carrying the baby has made me so much stronger. I pulled out a few strands of your hair. Don't be mad." I pulled the strands of hair tangled around the hairpin and tossed them into the nearby trash can. Ying rubbed the top of her head and laughed. "Why be angry? This is the price of beauty." Not long after he happily left, wearing a hair clip worth 5 figures, Lely, tired from playing, had also fallen sound asleep. While the nanny wasn't looking, I retrieved the freshly discarded hair from the trash bin, perhaps because I had pulled the hair with considerable force. Nearly every strand still had its follicle attached. I placed them into a small bag and labeled it accordingly. I also plucked a few strands of my own hair and stored them in a separate bag. Lely's hair is quite fine, so I can't see if there are any hair follicles on it. I'll have to wait until he wakes up, trim his nails, and put them together with his hair. When Ji Shershu came home from work, he heard me say I was going to the hospital for a checkup. He rarely showed concern and asked a couple of questions. "If you're really too tired, then hire another nanny or have our mothers take turns helping. Don't carry it all by yourself." I used drinking water to cover up the bitterness that welled up in my chest after hearing those words. If I hadn't developed a strong heart from my previous work experiences, the experiences of these past few months would have been enough to shatter my spirit if it weren't for that magical experience today. I might have been so moved by G.I. Shu's sudden words of comfort that I couldn't hold back my tears. But now, the moment I think of Lely calling him dad and he's sure mom, my heart feels unbearably heavy, afraid of disturbing G.I. Shu's sleep and affecting his work. The next day after having the child, we have been sleeping separately because I said my heart was uncomfortable. G.I. Shu took the initiative for the first time to let the child sleep with him for one night. The next morning, a refreshed G.I. Shu placed Lely in my arms. This child really knows how to care for others. I told him he can't throw tantrums at night or else his dad won't have the energy to work the next day. And he actually slept through the whole night. I twitched the corner of my mouth and lowered my head to meet Lely's wide-eyed gaze. Then that voice appeared again. Of course, I care about my dad. But as for you, the nanny, I'm going to make you suffer. It's all because of you that mom can't live with us before the nanny could clean the room. I searched every inch of the place where G.I. Shu had slept. He arrived early, and after casually giving a few instructions, I walked out of the house alone, breathing in the fresh air outside. For a moment, I felt a little dazed. How long has it been since I last truly looked at the sky? How long has it been since I last properly basked in the sun? Just because I had a child, why can't I even control my own life anymore? I have a friend who works at an appraisal agency to get the results as quickly as possible. I even paid extra. Perhaps they see cases like mine all the time. My friend didn't ask any questions. I'll personally oversee the process with a few samples in hand. Upon learning that the results won't be available until tomorrow at the earliest, I turned and headed to the hospital. My heart really hasn't been feeling well over the past few months. The longest stretch of sleep I've managed has been less than 3 hours. Anxiety, stress, and hair falling out in clumps. Every day, I open my eyes to the sound of my child crying. In my dreams, the child is always wailing discontentedly. I simply can't imagine how I would manage without a nanny to help with the household chores. I can also lend a hand when I can't manage on my own. What would I be like now? Your myocardial ischemia is quite severe. You need to adjust your daily routine immediately. If you continue to neglect it, there's a high risk of sudden death. When I got home, he sure was holding Lely while watching TV. After I finished recounting the doctor's words, he sure remained silent for a long time. Moo, let's find someone else to help. I'll also come to keep you company often. You can't keep pushing yourself like this. When Ji Shu returned, he stared at the diagnosis report for a long time. Before going to bed, I heard him make a phone call to his mother. The next morning, my in-laws rang the doorbell with their luggage in hand. It wasn't yet time for G.I. Shu to leave for work. So, he explained a lot of things to his parents after G.I. Shu left. My mother-in-law, for once, didn't give me a cold look. Moo, go back to sleep for a while. Your dad and I have discussed it. We'll take care of the baby for you this month. If you think we're doing a good job, we'll keep helping out in the future. If you're not satisfied, we can take turns with your parents. We'll learn from each other and improve together. We won't let you bear the burden alone like before. That morning, Lely was just as considerate to his grandparents as he was with the shirking. While I was catching up on sleep, he only cried once. It was completely different from when I was taking care of him alone. While I was going to the bathroom, I overheard my in-laws talking in the study. Our grandson isn't nearly as difficult to take care of as Mumu says. Right. Do you think it's because she doesn't know how to look after a child that she's worn herself out like this? My father-in-law told my mother-in-law to say less since they were here. They should focus on helping out properly. But my mother-in-law clearly hadn't said enough. Is her medical report even real? I hope our son isn't being fooled by her. It's good that Mumu is ambitious, but if she's trying to trick us just so she can go back to work, I won't let her get away with it. Quietly returning to the room, I picked up my phone to ask my friend when the paternity test results would be ready. While I was typing, my friend sent me a link. Muning, The child is indeed not yours, but he is biologically related to the owners of the other two samples. My heart, which had been hanging in suspense for over 20 hours, instantly plummeted to the depths. My hands trembling, I clicked on the link. I read the conclusions of the 3 reports over and over again. The name on the sample was written by me, and my friend has always been meticulous in everything she does since childhood, with her keeping a close watch throughout the entire process. There was no way the samples could have been mixed up. So my husband of many years had actually gotten together with my childhood best friend, and I, like a fool, had given up my own promising future, sacrificing my own health and life to take care of their child. Then where is my child during the months I was exhausted from taking care of Lely? Was my own child well fed and warmly dressed? My child, is he still alive? When grief reaches its peak, even crying makes no sound. I kept pounding my chest, tears falling, pitter-patter without end. After crying for nearly half an hour, I called a few friends at the same time. I also called the police. When I left the room, my mother-in-law, who was about to say something, closed her mouth again upon seeing my swollen red eyes. She gave my father-in-law a meaningful look. Then, holding Lely, she sat down beside me. Moo, look how well behaved Lulu has been all morning. You should hold him. As soon as I made eye contact with Lulu, his inner voice automatically echoed in my ears. If you dare hold me, I'll cry right in front of you. I love seeing you flustered and not knowing what to do. I pretended not to hear anything and stared blankly into the void. A few friends arrived quickly, seeing so many people come all at once. Although the in-laws were a bit confused, they still made arrangements to pour water for everyone. But when they saw Jishiru, who was supposed to be at the office, walk through the door, the mother-in-law was displeased. Moo, what's the big deal that you have to call a Subak right now? Just as she was complaining, someone else rang the doorbell upon seeing the police. Aside from those few friends, the expressions on the faces of the in-laws and GI share varied. Not only did you bring all these people, but you even called the police. What are you trying to do? Looking at G. Shira's angry expression, I finally spoke, enunciating each word clearly. Where is my child? The child I gave birth to. Where have you taken it? My in-laws looked utterly bewildered. And G. Shirshu's face instantly changed. The police spoke up at the right moment. Hello. We received a report from Ms. Lin claiming that her child was switched at birth. There are birth certificates and paternity test results as evidence. Mr. G, were you aware of this? My mother-in-law's legs instantly went weak. If my father-in-law hadn't been standing beside her to support her, she might have already collapsed to the ground. How is that possible? Lely isn't my grandson. Then where is my grandson? G. Sure. She was so anxious that sweat broke out. Officer, this is all a misunderstanding. My wife has been too exhausted from taking care of the child lately. She might be having some mental issues. There's nothing wrong with the child. Look how much he resembles me. Hearing this, the mother-in-law immediately perked up. Yes, Lely looks almost exactly like a Sue when he was a child. This is my grandson. Immediately after, my mother-in-law glared at me with a face full of anger. Lin Muning, instead of living a good life, you insist on making everyone unhappy, don't you? What kind of trouble are you stirring up? Seeing the warning in Ji Shu's eyes, I let out a scornful laugh. I didn't say the child isn't yours. I'm asking you, where is the child I gave birth to? What do you say? The biological mother of Lely. As the words fell, everyone followed my gaze toward Hishking, who had just opened the door, using her fingerprint to unlock it. It was obvious to anyone with eyes. Upon hearing my question, his face instantly turned pale. Moo, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Looking at Herring's awkward smile, I scooped up Lely, who was sucking on his fingers in the cradle. This child has tormented me for over 5 months. Because of him, I almost lost my life. As I spoke, I lifted the swaddling clothes high into the air. How about I drop him to his death? I had just fignet a move when he screamed and rushed over. Don't give my son back to me. Hink's sharp nails left several bloody scratches on the back of my hand. I shook my hand and didn't think much of it, after glancing at Erin, who was slumped on the ground, holding her child and sobbing. I turned my gaze to G. Shiru, where is my child? Seeing him with his head lowered and unresponsive, I stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face. I'm asking you, where is my child? My in-laws, who had been stunned by the series of twists and turns, snapped back to reality at my furious roar. My mother-in-law immediately burst into tears, pounding G. Shirsh's back. What on earth is going on? Why do you have a child with Mumu's friend? What about the child Mumu gave birth to? Seeing that Gi Shushu still had no intention of speaking, I completely lost it. I poured out all the grievances, resentment, and worries about the child that had built up over the past few months. I slapped Gi Shu's face over and over again. I cried loudly and screamed with all my might in front of more than a dozen people in the room. I completely disregarded my own image. I only knew that I had to seek justice for myself and for my child whom I had never met. Your child died long ago. His voice brought me back to my senses. Seeing me turn to look at her, he changing visibly shrank back. Mumu, you gave birth to a daughter because the baby was premature. She was very weak and had contracted pneumonia. The child died on the day she was born as she couldn't be saved, although I had already had a premonition in my heart. But knowing that the child I had been longing for had left this world without even opening their eyes to see it, I still felt so suffocated with grief that I could hardly breathe. Moo, I'm sorry. I never intended to ruin your family. He sure held Lulu tightly in her arms, and the two of them cried pitifully, one more heartbreaking than the other. My menacing appearance made me look like a villain. Where is the child buried? The police officer asked. We practice cremation here. There was no death certificate, so the child must have been buried directly in the hospital flower bed. G. Shu finally spoke. His voice was terribly horsero, and he didn't dare to look me in the eye at, oh, where is my placenta? Bringing up the placenta at this moment isn't because I'm missing the point. It's because I suddenly remembered the time when Lely was 100 days old. Ishur, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, had gained some weight, but her complexion was visibly glowing since my child could be quietly taken care of by Jishiru. That Jishiru who kept saying he would find a proper place to bury the placenta. Who knows what else he might do? Noticing Jishirshu instinctively glance at Herking, I also turned my head under my intense gaze. He trembled and said, That placenta. I ate it with a sharp smack. I slapped Ching across the face, seeing her biting her lower lip and silently shedding tears. I couldn't stand it and gave her the other side of her face a slap as well. Enough. Perhaps he was afraid I would hit Shirking the same way I hit him. Gi Shushu grabbed my arm. It was wrong of me to keep the child's matter from you, but at that time, you weren't in a good state. If I had told you the child was stillborn, who knows what would have become of you? We were in love for 5 years and married for 3. I understood what Gi Shu left unsaid. Are you trying to say that handing that little bastard over to me to raise was for my own good? Gi Shiru warned with dissatisfaction. Lin Muning, you have to have some limits, even when you're crazy. Lely is so young. No matter what, you've taken care of him for a few months. How can you call him a bastard? How ridiculous. 2 pieces of trash who are messing around right under my nose. How dare you still have the nerve to argue with me about what the child should call you? Such noble words. Aren't you just trying to make me a free nanny? As if his most honest thoughts had been exposed. G. Shiru lost his composure because of your work. Your pregnancy was difficult, and our daughter died right after she was born. I didn't blame you for it, and even gave you a son to make up for it. What more do you want? I can afford to support you. Just fine. Why are you working yourself to death if it weren't for this stunt of yours? Our son would always be yours. He'd call you Mom, take care of you when you're old, and see you off when you pass. Bang. One friend couldn't take it anymore and immediately kicked Ji Shu. Following that example, two more friends who had been listening nearby joined in. The three of them took turns throwing punches and kicks, leaving Ji Shu completely defenseless. The mother-in-law kept crying on the side, seeing Ji Shira being beaten. She wanted to step in and stop it, but she was grabbed by the father-in-law. This is the result of your constant indulgence. If you don't teach him properly when he's young, someone will eventually teach him for you when he grows up. Perhaps such a bizarre case is being encountered for the first time. Only when the police saw that their friend was about to back off did they step forward to intervene a couple of times. You few come with my colleagues to the police station to give your statements. The rest of you come with me to find the child's body. We need to perform an autopsy to determine exactly how the child died. Every single person in this room has to go to the police station. He sure couldn't avoid it, even if she wanted to. As everyone started getting up, I looked at Shini-chan, who had been sitting there the whole time without moving. Did you get it all recorded? Seeing him nod, I turned to Ji Shiru, who was beaten black and blue. I want a divorce from you, and you'll leave with nothing before Ji Shiru could speak. My mother-in-law objected first. Why should he leave with nothing? Mumu, I know Aksu has done things that hurt you. You can hit him, scold him, and I can even accept if you don't want to be with him anymore. But you can't be this ruthless. He sure didn't dare to speak. But I could tell from her expression that she was also dissatisfied with my words. Looking at the faces of these people before me, whom I once considered my closest, I laughed. You say I'm ruthless. What has your son done that isn't ruthless? My mother-in-law was clearly in the wrong, still wanting to argue her case. She muttered a few words under her breath, but I immediately shut her down. He takes my sacrifices for granted. I quit my job to take care of a bastard child who has nothing to do with me. Because of that child, I've let myself go. I can't eat or sleep, and now I'm even having heart problems. The doctor said, if I keep going like this, I could just drop dead. And it's all because of your son's selfishness. It's you who owe me, not me who owes him. How dare you say I'm being ruthless? I've given so much, lost so much. Shouldn't he compensate me for it? My mother-in-law had nothing more to say. I looked up and saw Ji Shu staring at me with a complicated expression, but I completely ignored him. She stepped past him and got into the police car. Several friends had already been taken away by the police car earlier, worried that I couldn't bear it alone. Shani Chen discussed with the police, and he accompanied me to the hospital to retrieve the child's body. He was sitting beside me. Throughout the journey, Ji Shirshu, who was in the same car, said nothing. The child was wrapped in plastic wrap by Ji Sheru and buried under a ginkgo tree in the hospital garden. Watching the small bundle being dug out from the soil, I instantly burst into tears. Back at the police station, the forensic doctor performed the autopsy immediately. Knowing I was in a bad state, the police let me wait until the results came out before taking my statement. 3 hours later, the police handed me the autopsy report. It showed that the child had indeed died from an illness, although the possibility of homicide was ruled out. However, Ji Sheru would still face punishment for improper handling of the body. He made me raise his illegitimate child and even registered the child under my name. Surprisingly, Ji Shiru's actions were not considered illegal. Knowing that I was feeling uncomfortable, the female officer taking my statement kindly advised, there are indeed no clear legal provisions regarding this matter. But although the law can't punish him, public opinion can. It's up to you how you want to handle it. After dealing with this for most of the day, it was already dark by the time I headed back. I changed the passcode on my home lock and deleted everyone's fingerprints except my own. At 10:00 in the evening, the doorbell rang. Perhaps they were afraid I wouldn't open the door. While ringing the doorbell, the person outside was also shouting, "Mamu, open the door quickly. Mom knows you're home." Seeing my parents, who were supposed to be traveling out of town, covered in dust and looking weary, I furrowed my brows. Why are you back at this time? My mother's eyes were badly swollen, and she replied in a tearful voice, "With such a big thing happening, how could we possibly continue our trip if each hadn't called me? Were you planning to keep hiding it from us all along?" Hearing this, I lifted my arm to cover my eyes as I lay on the couch, not wanting to say a word. The reason my parents chose to go out at this time was because we had just had an argument a few days ago. After having a child, they became just like everyone else. Whenever something went wrong with the child, they would immediately assume it was my fault, that I hadn't taken good enough care of them. I don't have much breast milk, so most of the time, Lily is fed with formula. Just because of this, whenever I eat any sweets, my mom scolds me. She says I'm a grown woman and still greedy, that I don't care about my child's well-being. I can accept that my in-laws don't understand how hard it is to raise a child, but I can't accept that my own parents no longer treat me like a human being after I gave birth to my child. I told them that Lily is difficult to take care of, and I'm under a lot of pressure and not feeling well physically. Only by having some sweets can my mood improve, move a little. And I've asked the doctor many times, given my milk supply, eating sweets won't have any effect on the child at all. But my mom wouldn't listen. She believed that everything should give way for the sake of the child. She said Lily was difficult to raise because of the wrongs I committed during pregnancy. She said I was under too much stress and didn't know how to manage it. In her eyes, I am nothing but a failure who can't even take care of a child properly and has made a complete mess of my own life. After yet another argument over a trivial matter, I completely lost it. My dad usually doesn't get involved in the disputes between my mom and me, but that day, for the first time ever, he spoke up and kept echoing everything my mom said. I drove them away in a fit of anger. My mom signed up for a tour group. She said she would never say another word to me again, no matter what problems I encounter. She'd never look for her again. One thing after another has been weighing me down, leaving me breathless. I don't even need to think to know what my mom would say if I told them, since they can never see things from my perspective. Why should I even bother trying, seeing that I didn't respond to what she said? My mom started crying. "Moo, Mom knows you've been wronged. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't keep it bottled up inside." Her crying stopped abruptly because of my mocking gaze. "Wronged? So you finally realized that I can feel wrong too hearing this." My father let out a sigh. "Moo, your mom cried the whole way back. I know you resent us for not understanding you before, and we were wrong. That's why as soon as we found out Lily isn't your biological child, we rushed back immediately. No matter what decision you make this time, your mom and I will definitely support you. To be honest, whether they're here or not doesn't make much difference to me based on my understanding of them. If they knew I wanted to divorce Ji-Shershu, they'd most likely try to talk me into staying together. Actually, before I started dating Ji-Shershu, I had always been indifferent about marriage and having children. I love money, and I love the feeling of watching my savings grow bit by bit through my own efforts. But my parents don't understand. They keep telling me about the benefits of marriage. They say humans are social animals. Not getting married and not having children means an incomplete life. After hearing it so many times, my thoughts gradually began to shift. After being with Ji-Shu for 5 years, my parents kept urging us to get married as soon as possible. Even after getting married, my parents continued to pressure me to have children early, although the final decisions were all made by me, and I should bear whatever consequences come with them. But it cannot be denied that my parents put in a lot of effort along the way. "You should go. I want to be alone for a while." Normally, when I say something like that, my mom would definitely scold me for being ungrateful. But today, she got up briskly without saying a single unnecessary word. Just before heading out, she turned back to look at me. "Tomorrow morning, your dad and I will come to pick you up and we'll go together to see that child off. Cremations usually take place during the day, and I don't want the child to spend a lonely night alone at the crematorium." I discussed with the police and arranged to leave the child in the morgue at the station for the night. planning to pick her up the next morning. That night, I slept very restlessly in my dreams. A little girl's voice kept calling for her mother unknowingly. I cried throughout the entire night. The next morning, most of the friends I had called for help yesterday showed up outside the police station, glancing at G's parents standing nearby, looking helpless and at a loss. I ignored them and walked straight in. G. Sheriff's method of handling the child's body violated our local funeral and burial regulations. Yesterday, I learned from the police that I needed to have the child cremated and buried. Jiaishu, who had been detained for 24 hours, asked the police to relay a message. Could we wait until he was released to hold the funeral for the child in front of G's parents? I said to the police, please pass on a message for me. He doesn't deserve to be a father, and my daughter wouldn't want to see him again. Surprisingly, G's mother had no reaction to what I said. The custom in our area is that funerals for children who die young cannot be held on a large scale. Otherwise, it will affect the child's reincarnation. So, after receiving the body that had been processed by the medical examiner, we went to the crematorium. A little over an hour later, my daughter, whom I had never met, became a small jar of ashes in my arms. As I was preparing to leave, G.I.'s mother mustered up the courage to walk over to me. Moo Moo, where do you plan to place the child's ashes? If you don't mind, you can bury them in the G.I. family ancestral grave. In the traditional beliefs of the older generation, children who die young are generally not allowed to be buried in the ancestral grave. Perhaps Jay Shearer's actions were simply too excessive, causing Jay's father and mother to feel a sense of guilt, and they wanted to use this method as a form of compensation. But I didn't appreciate it at all. Is the G family some kind of good place? I won't let my daughter suffer, even after her death. That indifferent remark made Jay's mother completely shut her mouth. After handling the child's affairs, I didn't rest for a single minute and immediately went to find a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. At 7 in the evening, G. Shershu, unable to get into his home, pressed the doorbell as soon as he entered without saying a word. He saw me holding up the divorce agreement in front of him. Sign it, and we'll go get the certificate first thing tomorrow morning. Ji Shu usually pays great attention to his appearance, but he had been detained for 24 hours. His beard had grown out and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Gone was the appearance that once earned him the title of class heartthrob. Do we really have to go this far? G.I. Sheriff's voice was sore. It sounded as though he hadn't had a drop of water in days. I shook the divorce papers and asked in confusion, do you really think that after discovering all the things you've done, I could just let bygones be bygones and continue living with you? What are you dreaming about? Aren't you afraid I might stab you to death in your sleep? G.I. Shu was left speechless by my words. Taking a deep breath, he picked up the pen and signed his name on the paper. I plan to sell the house. It's too late today, so pack a few clothes and stay somewhere else. You can come back to collect your things after the divorce is finalized. He was able to sign the divorce agreement, proving that Ji Shiru agreed to leave with nothing. So, when he heard me say I wanted to sell the house, he didn't react much. He just didn't expect that I wouldn't even let him stay one more night. Lin Muning, do you have to be so ruthless? We're not even divorced yet. Don't I even have the right to live here? That's right. You don't. I mean it, I said seriously. The sight of you disgusts me, and being in the same space as you makes it hard to breathe. So you have to move out. Furious, G.I. Sherwu turned and left without taking anything with him. I was relieved and locked the door from the inside, getting ready to wash up and go to sleep. Perhaps the dust had settled, as I slept quite well that night. The next day at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ji Shu, who was already waiting there, had eyes full of red veins. It was clear he hadn't slept all night. When the staff asked for the reason for the divorce, I replied without changing my expression. He cheated, made me raise the child he had with his mistress, and secretly buried my daughter, who died right after she was born, in just one sentence. The amount of information is staggering. The people standing around us all turned to look. Ji Shu, who hadn't expected me to say these things in public, was trembling with anger. Yet, he couldn't utter a single word of denial. The divorce certificate will take another 30 days to obtain. The thought of having to see G.I. Shero again makes me nauseous after stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. I walked straight ahead, pretending not to hear G.I. Shero calling my name from behind. Last night, while washing up, I had already decided what I would do next. First and foremost, I need to restore my body, which has been significantly depleted. I went to the hospital for a comprehensive health checkup, following the doctor's advice. I underwent postpartum recovery treatments. At the same time, I also signed up for a short-term fitness class. I'm busy every day without a break, and although I'm tired, my spirits are getting better day by day. Ji Shu took a day off to come back and pack his things. His parents came along with him. The three of them knew I wouldn't have anything nice to say, so they didn't come to bother me without saying a word. He started packing as soon as he entered the room. It took quite a while before G.I. Shero's belongings were all sorted out. As he was about to leave with the last bag, G.I. Shu said in a hoarse voice, "Mumu, I've always owed you an apology." I gave him a half smile and said nothing because the house was in a good location. It didn't take long after listing it online to find a suitable buyer. By the time all the procedures were completed, my postpartum recovery course had also finished. Just as I was about to start looking for a job again, my former boss called me. "Muning, I've heard a bit about what you've been through. What are your plans next? Would you be interested in coming back to the company?" When I resigned, aside from myself, the person I was most reluctant to leave was my old boss. I really shouldn't have turned down his offer. But boss, I want to leave this city for a while and see the world outside. I expected to hear a tone of regret from my boss, but instead, he paused and suddenly laughed. "No wonder we get along so well. The company just opened a new branch in Haichang and urgently needs capable people to take charge. I was just wondering how to persuade you. So, what do you think? Are you up for the challenge?" After being away from the workplace for 8 months, I thought I would have to start all over again. I never expected the old boss not only to give me a job, but also to promote me directly. "Boss, am I really up for it?" The boss pretended to be displeased. "You were trained by me, personally. If I say you can do it, then you can. Besides, I'll be staying there for the first few months. I won't come back until you've fully settled in. What is there to worry about anymore?" I quickly agreed and asked when we would set off. They knew I was going to work in another city. My parents wanted to stop me, but they couldn't find a reason. They know how much I suffered because of that wrong marriage. Now that I finally managed to stand up again, they would never dream of hindering my progress at this point. "You've grown up. From now on, do whatever you want to do. When you have free time, we'll come visit you. If you ever get tired, just quit your job and come home. Your dad and I can support you." Hearing my mother's rare words of tenderness, I felt a little unaccustomed to it. The day after getting my divorce certificate, I boarded a plane to Haichin when I heard G.I. Shero's name again. I had already been in Haichin for 3 months during this time while learning management skills from my former supervisor. I led my team to secure 2 collaborations. My life was back on track, and it was even better than before. But G.I. Shu's life had hit rock bottom. As for Hishirking, after that day at the police station, she never appeared before me again, because she had destroyed my family and gotten pregnant before marriage. She was directly kicked out of her home by her parents, with nowhere else to go. She took Lely to G. Shira's parents' house. Lely was indeed not an easy child to handle. His previous behavior in front of Hishirking and Jaya's parents was entirely meant to provoke me. He didn't know how to take care of a child. In less than a month, she had been tormented to the point of losing the desire to dress herself up. Perhaps it was because they felt that he had ruined Ji Shersha's life. Ji Shersha's parents did not agree to him registering their marriage with her. In the GI family, she was nothing more than a nanny worse than before, after another failed attempt to force a marriage. He abandoned Lily and ran away. No one knows where she went. And Gi's father and mother finally experienced the terror of a high-needs baby. They were getting older and didn't have the energy to take care of a child. Shu considered hiring a nanny, but someone had spread the word about his situation. Everyone in the company knew what he had done to maintain stability. The company demoted Shiru and cut his salary. Now, with a frequently ill child to support, where could he find extra money to hire help? Once again, Shiru's sleep was disrupted by Lely's late-night crying. He covered the child's mouth with a pillow. By the time he came to his senses, Lely had already stopped breathing. Shiru was arrested for intentional homicide. His parents, devastated by their son killing their grandson, suffered a stroke and a cerebral hemorrhage, respectively. No one in the family ended up well. Half a year later, I saw Hishing on the trending list. In the video, she was heavily pregnant, being beaten by an older woman right on the street. Looking at Herring's tear-streaked face, I remembered the promise we had made before I met Shirshu. Moo, if you have a daughter in the future, and I have a son, let's a marriage for them. What did I say back then? What era is this? Nowadays, we emphasize freedom in love and marriage, but they can still grow up together as childhood sweethearts. I did have a daughter, and she had a son. Fate played a cruel trick. The two children turned out to have the same father. To this day, I still don't know when she and Shu got together. I couldn't be bothered to ask, and no one told me either. It's all in the past now. After this experience, I have completely lost interest in marriage. For the rest of my life, I will live each day for myself. No one can ever control my thoughts again after hearing the two stories above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel.